I always spread nice words about you, but following greens love you go to the playthroughs, but in my respect, no, if a mentality is suicide tweet and feels like you want to force others to embrace it whether they want it or not. Gives the same vibes those vegans who don't eat meat, they want to force it. I'm not like I think that I didn't want to go over this early. I wanted to talk over this later on, but the amount of I get that some people get a bad perception of me. I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, it's more so reading comprehension issue in a lot of the cases. You said you want Riot completely remove surrender. That takes all of the option to choose. No, I didn't say. That's also a reading comprehension thing. I didn't say that the Riot to completely eliminate rank. I said surrender basically has no purpose in ranked anymore, okay? That's a different thing. I'm pointing out that surrender had to exist back in the day, and nowadays it doesn't have to exist in ranked specifically, because all the reasons why one might want to surrender back in the day don't exist anymore. People construe this as like, oh, you're being toxic, and they might get bad perception. But again, this is reading comprehension issue. Okay, look at this one. Can you imagine a situation where you're slowly bleeding out in the game, dragging it out for 20 minutes? Isn't pleasant for anyone on your team. You're so arrogant. You think your view and surrendering the game is the only correct one. This is also super pointless and a stupid thing to say, because again, reading comprehension. You think your view and surrendering in the game is the only correct one. Well, if I'm advocating for something, I'm making arguments for it. Obviously, I think it's the correct one. Much as you think that this is the correct one, which that's why you're making an argument in the first place. So superfluous, obviously, to type in the first place. And now I'm replying. I'm replying no. Because I cannot imagine this situation. You came up with a straw man, impossible situation in a way. If you know that you've lost for 20 minutes, then it wasn't lost. Okay? If you played for 20 minutes after the point at which you knew that the game was lost, then in fact the game was not lost and you misconstrued the game because you don't understand the game. Secondly, this is also a key thing that people don't really think about. Isn't pleasant for anyone on your team. Isn't pleasant for anyone. Why do you think you're playing still? Must be pleasant for somebody. Some people rejected the surrender vote. So it's basically whose will shall be imposed on the other, you know? And I'd argue that the people who are saying no to surrender have priority to play the game out because you all accepted the queue. Okay, I'm not even in favor of removing surrender. I think removing surrender could add to some toxicity. I've made these arguments. Like, I have a whole corpus of arguments made on this. Bro, I've been talking about this for years. For actual years. I have, like, you can look up all of my videos, all of my things that I've mentioned on this. People just try to engage with me on the surface and shallow level without really familiarizing themselves with my material. They just come out of the woodwork just swinging, like, with the stupidest arguments. What I said is that the mistake is pushing it to 15, okay? 15 non-unanimous vote is terrible. It's been detrimental to the game. So you should push it back to 20. And I'd like to see it back to being unanimous vote. And I'd like to remove the pop-up box. I want to put it as a tab checkbox. And this is like a moronic argument. Like, this makes no sense. Again, there's like comparisons people keep drawing here. Hi, Azzapp, I played a game of chess with a friend. She resigned before I could checkmate. We then had a talk on how surrendering is considered good manners. This is an interesting idea where people talk about, and it makes sense for chess and StarCraft, right? Do you think it could ever be applied to League of Legends because a team game? Are we BMing? No, because it's not comparable at that level, right? It's absolutely not comparable because you're talking about a game. First of all, the nature of this game is different. You're talking about a 1v1 game, which means you're not imposing your will on somebody else who wants to play the game. You control everything. So this is tantamount to the unanimous vote of surrendering the game. Secondly, it's somebody else also posted this. Hang on. Somebody retweeted it. Let me just find it. Give me a second. Somebody else retweeted this. Like, 3 points. These points are valid. Oh my god, this is big. Anyway, is forfeiting is only harmful third-party gameplay you can't control? Post-question. Why does it exist in single-player competition like chess, StarCraft? Okay, there's like, gauging of the game is infinitely simpler and it's 1v1. Also, the fact that StarCraft and chess are limited resource games, okay? They're limited resource games, thus the outcome becomes very deterministic in the face of lead, okay? Advantage becomes fairly deterministic. You can predetermine the outcome fairly easily at the highest levels of chess because it's a limited resource game. Same exact for StarCraft, because if you take majority control of the map, you have majority of economy, means you're gonna output more resources than the enemy can possibly, which means if you won thus far, you're gonna continue winning even if in the future. Because not only are you better and you've take control of the map, but you also have more disproportionate resources to work with, right? So that's another reason. So League of Legends doesn't fall into this pattern due to two reasons. A team game, you're playing with the other people, which means you're terminating their game for them without their consent. And the second reason is that the League of Legends is not even close to deterministic in its outcome, okay? Because it's not a deterministic game in a way. I mean, it is because Universe is deterministic, but it's a whole other can of worms. But League of Legends is best considered for humans as probabilistic because you have 10 variables, 9 to you completely unknown, and you can only gamble what they're going to do. You can only guess the probabilities of what they're going to do. So now we're talking about a game with infinite resources, non-limited resources. In fact, it works the opposite way to StarCraft, where the people controlling majority of the map, they can get majority of the resources, but the resource value to you goes up relatively because you're closing the gold lead to a point where there is this pinnacle where both teams are dead equal in late game. And at that point, like, the champion dynamics kick in. See, it's much, much more complex environment and a landscape, and it's non-deterministic, okay? At best, we can make our guesses. And sure, you can make an idea, like, okay, we have a 95% chance to lose. I don't think that warrants surrender. And that's about as good as you can guess, I think, like 95-ish. Because any other case, the game is going to end within the next minute or two. So 95 is kind of where you can get to within, like, reason in a game, and that kind of warrants it being playable, in my opinion. And on the second reason, like, if it's like higher than that, it's probably going to end in the next 1 minute or two. There is no reason. That's my argument. There is no reason to continue having surrender vote at all. There is no reason for it to exist. All deeply unfair scenarios are getting filtered out. The system can recognize them all. Yeah, again, like, I have to iterate and reiterate this many, many times because people just engage with me. Like, they just come in. They just, like, swing the door open. It's like, what up, motherfuckers? Surrendering is good. And this is why, Azzapp, you can't argue with this. And it's like, yeah, I talked about this a billion times before, but you're just not familiar with my message. And people, well, majority of the people arguing below these tweets, if you care to read, is basically just misunderstanding the point or like having problems with reading comprehension. Because you can have people who are like, well, I have a guy inting it and he's sprinting the game down and we want to leave, but we can't leave because he's saying no, but he's sprinting it. Yeah, hence why the tweet within the revelation to the fact that now players will be punished for doing that and you will be offered a surrender vote where you cannot lose LP at all. Okay, as if we can accept the universe is deterministic. You me there, quantum physics is very probabilistic. For now. I found a solution. As an Overwatch player, I'm glad we don't have a surrender option in the game. That would suck? Yeah, it would. When we talk about the rest, finally, 4 people need to agree. This is the most weird thing about it for me. I was a bit of show coming from Valorant, it's like, where it is 5. I mean, yeah, unanimous, I think makes sense. I don't know, I find it something like so deeply defeatist in arguing for the fact that you want to quit, arguing at the fact that you gave up, and people wear that as a badge of honor, as a badge of pride. It's like, this game is hard and it's unlikely we're gonna win it. That is why I want to leave. I kid you not. There's a comment here. I'm too lazy to look for it on Twitter. Somebody under my post commented like, playing a game that's unlikely to be won is a loser mentality in the first, something like that. Like, it was verbatim saying that, and I just lost it when I read that. Like, it's such a big perversion of the entire argumentation. You got me, homie.